Well, Apple really knows how to sell us on a brand new product. When Apple launched or unveiled their iPhone Air and played that promo video, I immediately wanted to pre-order one and get it right away. And while this is impossibly thin at 5.6 millimeters, it only weighs 165 grams, and it gives you some of the pro level features that you get from a Pro phone at a cheaper price point. There's a lot that Apple didn't tell us about the iPhone Air that I think everybody needs to know before they make some sort of purchasing decision on a brand new iPhone. So sit back, relax, and let's talk all things iPhone Air. But before we continue, if you do enjoy videos like this one, where we keep you up to date on all things Apple and some product reviews coming down the line, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. But now let's talk about the iPhone Air. So the pitch of the iPhone Air is relatively simple. You want some pro level performance in an ultra thin form factor, but you value form a little bit over function while still getting some of that pro level functionality. So in terms of what they did tell us with the iPhone Air and what was kind of said during the keynote, is that this thing is all about form. This is, like I said earlier, only 5.64 millimeters thick. So if you have an 11-inch M4 iPad Pro, that's basically the thinness of this brand new iPhone, which I have in my hand from a dummy model that I've been using for the past 2 weeks. It's only 165 grams in weight compared to something like the iPhone mini. The iPhone mini was 150 grams in weight. So if you guys have ever held that phone, it's a little bit heavier, but instead of having 5.3 inches, you're getting 6.5 inches in terms of a display. And speaking of the display, this is a full ProMotion 120Hz display that also supports the always-on display. You get your dynamic island, of course. It is a full OLED with that 460 ppi to make it that super liquid retina display that Apple always talks about. And you get up to 3000 nits of outdoor peak brightness, with the normal nits being about 1000 and HDR being 1600. Now this is made of a titanium frame with a ceramic shield on the front and back, and that's relatively important, the titanium frame, because with the Pro models, Apple got rid of the titanium frame due to thermals, but now it's on the iPhone Air, which could mean that the thermals are nowhere near as good as they are on the Pro models. And then in terms of performance, this is where you start to get some of the pro level stuff, right? You're getting the A19 Pro chip. Now it is throttled down just a little bit with one less GPU core compared to the Pro models, but it's still an A19 Pro chip versus just a regular A19. You also get the brand new N wireless chip, which gives you Wi-Fi 7, it gives you Bluetooth 6, and it supports Thread as well. And you're getting the new C1X modem for faster 5G data connectivity and much longer 5G connectivity as well when you are dealing with satellite connectivity. But now if you turn the phone around, you do see where you're going to start to kind of lose the pro levelness of this phone, right? You're getting only one camera sensor. It is a 48 megapixel full fusion camera shooter, which gives you that second optical length when you crop in, which Apple is touting. But then you also get the brand new selfie stage manager camera or center stage camera that they have in the front, which is about 18 megapixels, allowing you to take selfie photos both in landscape and portrait orientations while just holding your phone in portrait orientation, because the sensor is a complete 1x1 square instead of a 3x2. Which in layman's terms just means that you're just taking much easier photos, especially when you are dealing with a group in selfie mode. Now the battery part is what everybody thought was going to take a big hit, and it does take a hit because Apple is having less space to work with inside of here when it comes to the battery, but it's not a big difference or as big of a downfall. They did say that they were using a high density battery. We don't know 100% what that means, but it does give you 27 hours of local video, 22 hours of stream video, which is something to take into consideration. But they also introduced a brand new MagSafe battery pack, which is their new slim MagSafe battery, which does give you an additional 13 hours of both streamed and local video playback time. You can fast charge this phone at 20 watts, giving you 50% battery in just 20 minutes, and it does support Qi 2, but it doesn't support the new Qi 2.2, which is interesting. And then some other last little tidbits is that of course it still has the emergency SOS and satellite connectivity, and this phone is globally eSIM only. It is a dual eSIM, but it's globally eSIM only. Here in the US, we're used to the eSIM only now at this point, but everywhere else in the world, there still is a physical SIM card tray, which could make it a little bit inconvenient for those people that are needing to have physical SIM cards. Now this phone does start at $1,000. It technically replaces the Plus model, and if you look at the lineup, there is no longer any iPhone 16 Plus anywhere to be seen. There's no actual iPhone 16 either, which is something that's interesting in the way that they're lining everything up. But again, this is a $1,000 phone, meaning that you can get a 16 Pro for probably this price or even cheaper in the used and secondary market. But there's a couple things that Apple didn't tell us that are very important for people to know that I think should be known in order to make an educated purchasing decision depending on what you want. First and foremost, again, it's the battery life capacity. Apple doesn't really like to share the battery capacities in general, but we don't know exactly how many milliamp hours there are in here, what this extra dense battery looks like or high density battery looks like, so that is something to consider. Now, even though this is the A19 Pro chip, another thing, especially if you are a content creator or somebody that deals with large 4K video files, The USB-C port is only USB 2, so it transfers only at 480 megabits per second versus the Pro models, it's USB 3. And as somebody who uses their iPhone a lot for video recording and transferring to external SSDs, the Pro models are much faster at transferring data versus the regular models. Like I've transferred stuff from the regular 16 and it takes way longer than transferring from my 16 Pro off to my SSD. Another thing is that Apple has capped this out at 20 watts of wired charging and 15 watts of wireless charging. This cannot get any faster charging, which is kind of a shame. Again, especially because the new iPhone Pros, even the older iPhone 16 Pros, will be able to support 25 watts of wireless charging directly out of the box with iOS 26. Another thing that I had to omit because of the size of the iPhone is that there's only one speaker, so this is not going to be a stereo speaker experience when you are listening to things out loud. For a lot of people that really won't matter too much because they have headphones in and they're not thinking this is going to be some sort of movie machine, but it's just something to take note of. But one impressive thing about this iPhone is that technically, if you look at some of the renders on the new camera plateau, that's what they're calling these new kind of landscape camera modules, this one only has that one camera sensor. Why does it need to have a whole plateau if it only has one camera sensor? Why not just do kind of what the SE does? And that's because Apple is housing all of the computer components of this iPhone Air in that camera plateau. So the rest of the chassis is filled with basically battery, which is very, very impressive in its own right, but that means thermals could be a little bit questionable. Apple, during their A19 Pro and during their iPhone 17 Pro section, talked a big part about the thermals in the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max, and they mentioned nothing about the thermals in the iPhone Air, which has me thinking this thing could overheat or throttle down very early because of how thin it is and how hot it could get. And then the last thing that they didn't mention is anything with repairability. Because this is a unibody design, because this has ceramic shield on both the front and the back to protect it and make sure that it doesn't crack or bend under pressure, this could be very hard to repair yourself moving forward. So this could be an expensive repair if you don't get something like Apple Care, so definitely take that into consideration. So the big ones for me here are, of course, the lack of multiple cameras, but if you are getting this phone, you know who you are and you know that you're only going to get that one camera sensor on the rear. But the big one is going to be the USB-C port, but not only for data transfer speeds, but also for charging speeds. It's going to be a slow charging phone because, of course, Apple wants to reduce the thermals, make sure that it doesn't overheat when charging quickly. And then secondly, same thing with the data speeds. I need faster data speeds if I am using my iPhone as any form of camera for my work, whether it is for the main camera, whether it is for B-roll footage. I tend to use my iPhone in certain situations, so not being able to offload large video files is a big deal for me. But again, if that's not something that you do, then that could be all for naught at the end of the day. So that's everything that we should know, or everything that we know so far about the iPhone Air. We will be pre-ordering one. We will be getting it on September 19th alongside you guys. So everything that we get, we'll be able to test alongside the Pros and the regulars and against the older phones and the Plus model phones. And I'm just excited to get a new iPhone and something that feels a little bit different, because if this tells me anything, I think I'm really going to like the iPhone 17 Air or just the iPhone Air. But one last thing that I do think is going to happen, I think the iPhone Air is going to take on the iPhone SE cycle. So the reason this doesn't have a 17 in the name is because I don't think it's going to be upgraded year over year. I think this is going to be maybe an 18-month or 24-month type of phone moving forward, similar to how Apple does the iPhone SE lineup. But that's just kind of a educated guess from my end. But that'll do for this video. Let me know what you guys think about the whole keynote, what you think about the iPhone Air. Are you planning on getting any of these iPhones? What iPhone are you upgrading from and upgrading to? Always curious to know how long people are waiting these days in order to upgrade their phone. But that'll do it. If you made it to the end, leave a dolphin in the comments down below. And if you want to watch a whole recap or maybe a little bit more about the Apple Watch Ultra 3, click on one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace.